Good morning, fourth graders. Today is Wednesday. I believe it's April 15th today. Doesn't look like the weather's been clearing up too much, huh? Kind of icky out there. Hopefully by the weekend. In the city of Ember, we were talking about going down into the storerooms where Lena's friend Lizzie works. And remember, everything used to be back in the day, it was all full of all these wonderful things, and now there's hardly anything left down there. And this is Lena talking to Lizzie then, where we left off yesterday. And that everyone should start feeling afraid because there isn't much left. All right, thinking about all this, Lena waited in the line of people at Lizzie's station. When she got to the front, she leaned forward with her elbows on the counter and whispered, "Lizzie, can you meet me after if you're through with work? I'll wait for you right outside the door." Lizzie nodded eagerly. At 4 o'clock, Lizzie came trotting out of the office door, and Lena said to her, "Will you come home with me for a minute? I've got to show you something." "Well, sure," she said. As they walked, Lizzie talked. "My wrist is killing me from writing all day," she said. "You have to write in the tiniest letters to save paper. I get a terrible cramp in my wrist and my fingers, and people are so rude. Today, they were worse than ever. I said to some guy, 'You can have 15 cans of corn. You can only have 3. And he said, 'Look, don't tell me that. I saw plenty of cans in the Pot Street Market just yesterday.' And I said, 'Well, that's why there aren't any left today.' And he said, 'Don't be smart with me, carrot head. But what am I supposed to do? I can't make cans of corn. I need those cans.' 'Well, what am I supposed to do? Make them out of thin air?'" They passed through Harkin Square, around the gathering hall, and down Roving Street, where 3 of the floodlights were out, making a cave of shadow. "Lizzie," said Lena, interrupting the flow of talk, "is it true about light bulbs?" "Well, is what true?" "That there aren't very many left?" Lizzie shrugged. "I don't know. They hardly ever let us go downstairs into the storerooms. All we see are the reports the carriers turn in. How many forks are in 1,146? How many doorknobs in 3,291? How many children's shoes in room 2,249? But when you see the report for light bulbs, Lizzie, what does it say?" "I never get to see that one," said Lizzie. "That one and a few other ones, like the vitamin report, are only a few people get to see those." "Well, who?" Lena asked. "Oh, the mayor, and of course old Flabface." Lena looked at her questioningly. "You know, Philo Batten, the head of the storerooms. He is so mean, Lena. You would just hate him. He counts us late if we come even 2 minutes after 8, and he looks over our shoulders as we're writing, which is awful because he has terrible breath. Ugh. And he runs his fingers over what we've written and says, 'This word is ineligible. That word is ineligible. Those numbers are ineligible.' It's his favorite word, ineligible." When they came to Lena's street, Lena ducked her head in the door of the yarn shop and said hello to Granny, and then they climbed the stairs to the apartment. Lizzie was talking about how hard it was to stand up all day and how it made her knees ache, how her shoes pinched her feet, blah, blah, blah. She stopped talking long enough to say hello to Eveline Murdo, who was sitting by the window with Poppy on her lap, and then she began again as Lena led her into her bedroom. "Lena, where are you when the big blackout came?" she asked, but she went right on without waiting for an answer. "I was at home, luckily, but it was scary, wasn't it?" "I hate those blackouts," Lizzie said. "People say there are going to be more and more of them, and that someday—" She stopped and frowned and started again. "Anyway, nothing bad happened to me after that. I got up and figured out a whole new way to do my hair." It seemed to Lena that Lizzie was like a clock wound too tightly and running too fast. She'd always been a little this way, but today she was more so than ever. Her gaze skipped from one spot to another, and her fingers twiddled with the edge of her shirt. She looked paler than usual, too. Her freckles stood out like smudges of dirt on her nose. "Lizzie," said Lena, beckoning toward the table in the corner, "I want to show you." But Lizzie wasn't listening. "You're so lucky to be a messenger, Lena," she said. "Is it fun? I wish I could have been one. I would have been so good at it. My job is so boring." Lena turned and looked at her. "Is there anything you like about it?" she asked. Lizzie pursed her lips, and in a tiny smile she looked sideways at Lena. "There is one thing," she said. "What?" "I can't tell you. It's a secret." "Oh," said Lena, "then you shouldn't have mentioned it all," she thought. "Maybe I'll tell you someday. I don't know." "Well, I do like my job," Lena said, "but I wanted to talk to you about what I found yesterday. It's this." She lifted the box away and took up the piece of paper covering the patched-together document. Lizzie gave it a quick look. "It's a message someone gave you? It got torn up?" "No, it was in our closet. Poppy was chewing on it. That's why it's torn up. But look at the writing. Isn't it strange?" "Uh-huh," said Lizzie. "You know who has beautiful handwriting? Mylabone. She works with me. You should see it. It's got curly tails on the Y's and the G's and fancy loops on the capital letters. Of course, Flabface hates it. He says it's illegible." Lena slid the piece of paper back over the pasted-down scraps. She wondered why she had thought Lizzie would be interested in what she'd found. She'd always had fun with Lizzie, but their fun was usually wild games of hide-and-seek and tag, the kind of games where you run and climb. Lizzie never had been much interested in anything that was written on paper. So Lena quietly put the document back in its place, and she sat down with Lizzie on the floor. She listened and listened and listened until Lizzie's chatter ran down. "I'd better go," Lizzie said. "It was fun to see you, Lena. I miss you." She stood up, fluffed her hair. "What was it you wanted to show me?" "Oh, yes, that fancy writing. Really nice. Lucky you found it. Come and see me again soon, all right? I get so bored in that office." Lena made beet soup for dinner that night, and Poppy spilled hers and made a red lake on the table. Granny stared into her bowl, stirring and stirring the soup with her spoon, but she never ate it. She didn't feel quite right, she told Lena. After a while, she wandered off to bed. Lena cleaned up the kitchen quickly, and as soon as her chores were out of the way, she could get back to studying her document. She washed Poppy's clothes. She sewed on the buttons that had come off her messenger jacket. She picked up the rags and sacks and boxes and bags that Granny had tossed out of the closet. And by the time she had done all this and put Poppy to bed, she had almost half an hour to study the fragments of paper. She sat down at her desk and uncovered the document. With her elbows on either side of it and her chin resting in her hand, she pored over it. Though Lizzie and Captain Fleurley had paid no attention, Lena still thought this torn-up page must be important. Why else would it have been in such a cleverly fastened box? Maybe she should show it to the mayor, she thought reluctantly. She did not like the mayor. She didn't trust him either. But if this document was important to the future of the city, he was the one to know about it. Of course, she couldn't ask the mayor to come to her house. She pictured him puffing up the stairs, squeezing through the door, looking disapprovingly at the clutter in her house, recoiling from Poppy's sticky hands. No, that wouldn't do. But she didn't want to take her carefully patched together document to the gathering hall either. It was just too fragile. The best thing to do, she decided, was to write a mayor a note. She settled down to do this. She found a fairly unpolished half piece of paper, and using a plain pencil, she wasn't going to waste her colored ones on the mayor, she wrote, "Dear Mayor Cole, I have discovered a document that was in the closet. It is instructions for something. I believe it is important because it is written in very old printing. Unfortunately, it got chewed up by my sister, so it's not all there. But you can still read some bits of it, such as marked with E, fine door of bow, small steel pan. I will show you this document if you want to see it. Sincerely yours, Lena Mayfleet, Messenger, 34 Quilliam Square." She folded the note in half and wrote Mayor Cole on the front. On her way to work the next morning, she took it to the gathering hall. No one was sitting at the guard's desk, so Lena left the note there, placed so the guard would see it when he arrived. Then, feeling as if she had done her duty, she went off to her station. Several days went by. The messages Lena carried were full of worry and fear. "Do you have an extra baby drink? I can't find it at the store. Have you heard what they're saying about the generator? We can't come tonight. Grandpa B won't get out of bed." Every day when she got home from work, Lena asked Granny, "Did a message come for me?" But there was nothing. Maybe the mayor hadn't gotten her note. Maybe he'd gotten it and paid no attention. After a week, Lena decided she was tired of waiting. If the mayor wasn't interested in what she'd found, too bad for him. She was definitely interested. She would figure it out. Twice during the week, when Poppy and Granny were both asleep, she had a little free time. She'd spent this time making a copy of the document in case anything happened to the fragile original. It had taken her a long time. She used one of her few remaining pieces of paper, an old label slightly torn from a can of peas. The copy was as accurate as she could make it, with the missing bits between the letters carefully indicated as dashes. She had tucked it under the mattress of her bed for safekeeping. Now she finally had a whole free evening. Poppy and Granny were both asleep and the apartment was tidied. Lena sat down at her table and uncovered the patched-together document. She tied back her hair so it wouldn't keep falling in her face, and she put a piece of paper next to her, blank except for a little bit of Poppy's scribbling, to write down what she had decoded. She started with the title. The first word she'd already figured out. It had to be the word instructions. The next word could be for. Then came egress. She wasn't sure about that one. Maybe it was someone's name? Egressman, Egerston, instructions for Egerston? She decided to just call it the instructions for short. She went on to the first line. This office doc probably meant this official document. Maybe secure meant secure or security. Then there were the words period and ears and city, but after that, so much was missing. She studied the line next to number 1, EXP. That could be expect or expert or so many things. She moved on to RIV. That might be part of a word like drive or strive. What could ip or orc possibly be? They were so close together, maybe they were part of one word. What ended with ip? Whip, Lena thought. Trip, slip, dip. What ended with orc? Fork came to mind immediately. Trip, fork, slip, fork. Nothing she could think of, though, made sense. Maybe it wasn't fork. What else ended in orc? Starting at the beginning of the alphabet, Lena went through all the words that rhymed with fork. Most of them were nonsense, bork, dork, gork, hork, jork. This isn't going to work, she thought miserably. Oh, work! The word could be work. Then what would the first part be? Trip work, flip work, dip work, pip work? Suddenly it came to her. Pipeworks. Pipeworks, that had to be it. Something in this message was about the pipeworks. Lena looked back at EXP and RIV. Riv, well, that could be river. Rapidly, she ran her eyes down the page. In line 3, she saw Iver ink. That looked like river and bank. The word door jumped out at her from line 4. Hole on its scrap of paper. Lena took a quick breath. A door? What if it's the one she'd wished for? The one that led to the other city? Maybe her city was real after all, and these were instructions for finding it. She wanted to leap from her chair and shout. The message had something to do with the river, a door, and the pipeworks. And who did she know who knew about the pipeworks? Dune, of course. And that's where we're going to stop. See you guys tomorrow. Hopefully the weather will get better.